And I'm back. More dual Destinies. Gonna continue talking to Yuri Cosmos. He's been a perpetual liar. So, let's see what he has to keep saying. But apparently we're gonna be doing a mood matrix. Hooray! Director Cosmos. A new possibility has been presented by the defense. They are claiming that you were the third person. Forgive me! I'm so sorry. So the great pioneer of space development is revealed to be just another fabulous cur. I have only one question for the likes of you. Shall I send you off quickly? Oh, very quickly. The evidence doesn't lie, Director Cosmos, so don't try to talk your way out of this. Fine! I'll tell the truth. It's all just as you say, Mr. Wright. It's true, I was there in the boarding lounge. I got there before Detective Arm, and when she arrived, she fired warning shots at me. I was afraid people would mistake me for the killer, so I escaped to the control room. I then went past the elevators and all the way around, back around again. I came up behind her and pretended to be the second on the scene. What a troublesome old man you are, with such convoluted deeds and thoughts. Sorry, I just ate breakfast. I see, so then. Are you still insisting that you did not kill the victim? Of course I am! When I arrived at the lounge alone, I saw the true killer! The great Yuri Cosmos was a history-making witness! Now hold on just a moment. We just proved a few minutes ago that the third person that Mr. Starbuck and Miss Aura Blackwell saw was you! No! It wasn't me! I saw the person as well! If I were the killer, why would I lie to cover for Starbuck? I would just leave him to take the fall. That is an excellent point. Well, makes sense if he told those lies to cover for Mr. Starbuck. Still, a lie is a lie, Athena. So Director Cosmos claims he's not the culprit, but where's the proof? I just remembered. I have an alibi. Miss Blackwell said she saw the killer at 10 a.m., correct? And? Well, I was on the 4th floor helping with the evacuation effort. Ask any member of staff you like, they'd corroborate me. The director is not fibbing for this once. He's not fibbing for once. I confirm he has an alibi for the time specified. So you're claiming that Miss Blackwell saw the killer commit the crime at 10? And that you arrived at the lounge after that? Yes, and I believe the person I saw is the same that Miss Blackwell saw. Although it was pitch black, it was pitch black, so it was more of a shadowy figure and less a person. And I couldn't exactly see their face, but it was definitely the silhouette of an Earthling. As long as he has an alibi, we can't very well claim Director Cosmos was the killer. No. Then again, maybe we don't need to yet. I wonder if he really is covering for Starbuck. Your Honor, the defense moves to have the director testify about the person he saw. Very well. Director Cosmos, your testimony, please. Sorry about that. I'm trying to clear my throat. As I tried to enter the lounge, the true killer fired a gun at me. I hid to avoid getting shot. But when I tried to get another look, he vanished into thin air. I was near the elevator side door and, well, the launch pad 1 door. And the control room door should have shut tight to the killer. So you were shot at by the killer too? And they disappeared? Yes, though luckily no harm came to my glorious body. Unfortunately, the bullet hit Terran's oxygen tank. I know because I heard a pang! Must have been the sound of the tank being ruptured. Wait, but I thought the bullet hit his metal. It was Detective Arm's bullet, remember? Right, what a mess this is turning into. So let's see. Director Cosmos is claiming that when he found Mr. Terran the killer, the culprit shot a 10 caliber bullet. Right, but it actually hit Terran's oxygen tank and ruptured it. And then the killer disappeared and the director went into the boarding lounge. When Detective Arm caught up and fired those warning shots. Judging by his medal, it looks like it was one of those that almost took him out too. Good summary, but that doesn't explain where our mystery killer went. Director Cosmos, I was wondering if you could elaborate on where the figure disappeared. I'm ashamed to admit I tried to hide myself when I was shot at, but I'm about to sneeze. God damn it. Hopefully that's the last one. This is getting embarrassing. When I peeped back into the lounge, the real killer was gone. I rushed into the lounge straight away to investigate. But what I found was Terran with a knife in his chest and Starbuck out of cold on the floor. So we have a culprit who vanished from the scene with no escape route. Vanished without a trace. It's truly like one of the great mysteries of the cosmos. Silence! The riddle of the ages, indeed. But I'd rather know how a fitting leech such as you can be lauded as great. The great man is always misunderstood in his own time, but he must remain true to himself, even if those around him don't understand. That might be the first true statement he said all day. How do you suppose this person managed to vanish so suddenly? Simple. Because it was Spaceboy himself. When he was spotted by the director Honora, he quickly feigned unconsciousness. That would certainly take all the mystery out of the idea of a vanishing culprit. I want to raise an objection, but I don't have any counter-evidence. Director Cosmos, when you saw this person, did you also see Mr. Starbuck on the floor? No, because it was dark as a black hole there. I didn't see Starbuck until the other person vanished and I entered the room. It wasn't exactly helpful. I'm prepared to accept your surrender, right, Dono? I can't find any holes in this testimony. I can't give up. Mr. Wright, why don't you let me help? Huh? While the director was giving his testimony, I detected a cacophony of discord. Which means he's hiding his true feelings. That might just help us find out what happened to our vanished killer. That'd be great. Let's see what you can do. You got it, boss. I wouldn't miss the chance to delve into a great mind. Yuri Cosmos, prepare to hand over your secrets of your heart to me. Was I almost going into the divination seance speech in just a sec? That's the wrong game. She says it the same exact way. It's weird. Anyway, I was watching videos of the of Spirit of Justice to kind of get ready for this, but I'm not even there yet. Anyway, okay, let's see. Launchpad door, sad emotion. Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you seem to be afraid of the launchpad door. The great Yuri Cosmos, afraid? And what basis do you have for that outlandish accusation? Whether I have any basis or not, you seem quite distressed by it. I'm most certainly not. Director Cosmos! There's something about the launchpad door you're not telling us, is there? He's speechless. Like you hit the nail on the head, boss. It's working. One more punch and it'll be a knockout. It'll be like facing Gabby J all over again. Yay! Anyway, there seems to be one more emotion that's at odds. Go get him. Alright, back it is. Let's see. Surprised at...
Got it!
You must have thought it very strange the killer vanished into thin air. I did! That kind of thing just doesn't happen! And yet at the same time you barely registered any shock. What? Why are you... I can only think of one reason why you weren't surprised by the killer's vanishing act. You must have had a good idea where they went, isn't that right? No, of course not! That's preposterous! Only I can enter the control room! And the area beyond the launchpad door was filled with smoke, making it impassable. As for that southern door... I was standing right there, so there was nowhere for the killer to run to! Maybe or maybe not. You went into the room to check on Mr. Starbuck and Mr. Taryn, right? I wonder if the culprit took the opportunity to silently slip through the southern door. I highly doubt it. As you recall, right after I entered the lounge, Detective Arm came rushing towards it herself via the southern hallway. Anyone trying to escape through there would have been caught. And yet the director wasn't surprised the killer vanished. So you're absolutely sure no one used the escape route for there was no escape route for the culprit to use. I'll just input those two pieces. And there! Just what I wanted to see. Presto changeo! Less Discord. I just love the animation of her smiling and her hands just going up in the air. It looks like we're on the right track. Thanks, Athena. Let's see, making sense of what we learned. Director Cosmos wasn't surprised at the culprit suddenly vanishing from the lounge, which points to the possibility that he knew where the killer escaped to. Furthermore, talking about the door to the launch pad makes him uneasy. In other words, he's probably hiding something about the launch pad 1 door. When we put those two pieces together, only one solution comes to mind. Director Cosmos, did the real killer escape through here?
Take that!
The culprit went through the Launchpad 1 door to escape. Yes. I mean, no! Disaster to starboard! We are going to crash into an asteroid! Master Tactician, you're not. But the area beyond's filled with smoke, wasn't it? True, but this is still the only logical answer. If we figure out just what the director's hiding about the launchpad door, we should be able to iron out the logical inconsistencies. The door requires fingerprint recognition. Only Starbuck, Terran, and I have access. I don't see if that killer could have opened the security lock to you. That's an easy one. Killer was right there in the boarding lounge, meaning there was a way he could have easily gotten past the lock. Come to think of it, we did examine the print and the fingerprint recognition device. I propose that the killer use this person's prints to get past the security lock.
Take that!
That's... Mr. Starbuck was lying unconscious there, probably going the whole time. Anybody could have easily gotten past the security lock using his prints. And actually, Mr. Starbuck's prints are exactly what we found on the device's screen. Looks like he does have something to do with that door. And I'm betting it's got something to do with the culprit's escape route. But I don't have enough information to see where the whole picture yet. You know, something just occurred to me. Would you like to hear it? Huh? Oh, by all means. There's a security camera in boarding lounge 1. Right, the one that recorded the victim and the defendant. What about it? If the true culprit escaped into the Launchpad 1 corridor, then that might be recorded on the security footage as well. Then the mystery would be solved. What do you think of my logic? Poor guy. I hope you didn't strain your faculties too much, your baldness. I beg your pardon. If we play the security footage beyond this point. Oh, the footage cuts off! The camera was running on backup power, but apparently the power cables were damaged. Most likely by the after effects of the explosion. There is no footage after this, be it of criminals or space aliens. And I thought it was a good idea. Just because your grandchild is watching from the gallery, it doesn't mean you should try to show off too much, Grandpa Balls. Prosecutor Blackwell, how'd you know about my grandchild? I think his grandchild just learned a little about the harshness of the adult world. Poor guy. Setting aside the issue of grandchildren, I'd like to have the witness continue. Director Cosmos, could you tell me more about when you entered the lounge? Tell me more about entering the lounge. If I must. Surprised emotion, and then the Oh. Surprised emotion, and then she shot at me.
Got it!
Director Cosmos, why were you so surprised when Detective Arm found you and again when she fired? Isn't that a bit unnatural? Sadly, even great men such as myself have ordinary human feelings. Our bodies are bound by the forces of gravity and emotion. Even a great man such as myself experiences surprise on occasion. I'm sure you do. My real point is that not the fact that you were surprised, but rather what you were surprised by. Pardon me. First, you were surprised when Detective Arm found you in the lounge. And just after that, you were of course again surprised when she shot at you. Considering what you were surprised about, a strange phenomenon occurs. Director Cosmos, what's strange about your surprised reaction was in fact... Sure, you were surprised when Detective Arm shot at you, but the surprise you felt when she found you in the lounge was much greater. The fact you were more surprised by simply being found than by being shot at suggests to me that you were conflicted about whether or whatever it was you were doing there. The enemy has acquired a new weapon. Commence Operation Hide Under the Desk. Please tell me I finally sunk his battleship. Boss, I'm getting less Discord now. That must mean he really is hiding something about that launchpad door. Whatever he's hiding most likely has something to do with the killer's escape. I wonder what it could be. If he was doing something suspicious around that door, maybe we can spot some change before he came to the room and after. Detective Fulbright gave us a photo taken after the crime. Let's run a comparison. Let's see, the footage of the door. I see it. And this is how the door looked after he went into the lounge. And the panel to the left of the fingerprint. Look at that. There is a change. Something's definitely different. Director Cosmos!
What is it? What have you two been up to over there?
Finding the answer to what you're really doing when Detective Arm found you, that's what. And the answer lies clearly in this footage. All I have to do is compare it to the photo that was taken during the investigation.
Don't be ridiculous! If you really do have an answer, you would have pointed it out already!
He's asking for it. This is what changed directly after the incident. The little switchy thing.
Take that!
I want to turn the switchy thing. The knob.
Ah, that's...
Your Honor, please take a look at this footage.
Let's see.
Take a look at the knob next to the launchpad door. As you can see, it's horizontal. It is, isn't it? However, he turned it the other way. When we investigated the scene of the crime yesterday, the knob was vertical.
What does that mean?
It means that sometime before the director arrived and after, someone turned this knob.
No!
After the scene was discovered, you were the only one who could have turned the knob. Come on now, Director Cosmos. Let's hear what you have to say. What were you trying to do by turning the knob by the door?
Fine, I admit it. Right. I did turn that knob. The knob is a safety lock meant to keep the launchpad in place. I was afraid there'd be more explosions, so I wanted to move the launchpad away.
You wanted to do what? Hey, didn't Polka tell us something how they prepare for launch? She said once that the launchpad, once it's fully assembled, they move it to the launch site.
Wee bonk.
But the safety lock in the boarding lounge has to be disengaged first. I guess that clears up what it's used for. So if the killer escaped to the launchpad corridor, maybe they were transported along the launchpad to the launch site. I don't think so. Launchpad corridor was filled with smoke. I don't think they could have escaped through that corridor. Where did the killer escape to? I guess there's still some things we have to uncover. Director Cosmos, I request you tell us about moving the launchpad in more detail.
Fine, but listen carefully, for I'm about to give a history-making testimony.
Sure. Happy emotion.
Got it!
I had no choice but to disengage the safety lock. You make it sound like you were reluctant to do so, and yet when you did, you felt some joy, as if you were very pleased with yourself.
How do you do it? How do you know everything as if you were there?
Pretty impressive, isn't it? It's the power of analytical psychology. So care to explain why you felt joy when you disengaged the safety lock? When I think back on the facts we've discovered up to this point, I have to believe that you were trying to fulfill some hidden agenda.
How do you know about that too?
Because I'm more or less a pro at guessing.
But you've no proof I had a hidden agenda. And even if I did, I would never ever tell you, so there.
I know they say people regress as they grow older, but you, sir, take the cake.
And how could you doubt a man with such great intensity, intelligence, and integrity?
What are you, Kurt Angle?
Silence!
You got it wrong! You, a man of integrity? Don't make me laugh. Prosecutor Blackwell? What came over him all of a sudden? You've spouted nothing but falsity since you stepped up on the stand. You're not the kind of man who will be glorified in the annals of history. Not for greatness, anyway. Unless you consider greatest bare-faced liar an honor. Liar? His words bite harder than his bark. You moved Launchpad 1 after the explosion. My, how naive you are. You fail to realize even how the facts themselves have betrayed you. No, just a thought, but modern English could be your friend. And here's a thought for you. Immediately following the bombing, Launchpad 1 was on the boarding lounge 1's side. The police confirmed this on the scene. What? Liar! So that means the director didn't move the launch pad? Curse my judgment for calling history's greatest liar to the witness stand. Let us leave him to indulge his lies and war games to his heart's content. A liar! But it doesn't make sense. Can't deny someone turned the knob. And once the safety lock was released, I'm sure that the pad must have went somewhere. If we chase down the truth of this issue, we might find out where the killer escaped to. You're sure it must have been somewhere? We just might figure it out. Your arguments are nothing but conjecture, bluffing, and wishful thinking. Stop chasing your fantasies and see reality for what it really is. Or you're not man enough to, boy. Talk about hitting below the belt. Youngins these days. I don't understand it. I'm sure Director Cosmos must have moved the launch pad. The knob was definitely turned after it came to the lounge. But the launch pad is right there. We're supposed to be. Wait a minute. Maybe I got it all backward. What if the director turned the knob not to move the launch pad away, but to bring it back where it was supposed to be? What are you blathering about? What if the launch pad was at the launch site before the incident? And then after the incident, Director Cosmos moved it back to its usual spot. All he had to do was turn the knob to call the launch pad back. And it would be right where the police found it. Ah, my hair. Made him sigh like Mr. Starbuck. So whoa, that's something. Was what I said really that off base? It pains me to have to explain how wrong your own logic is to you. However, our great liar turned the knob only after discovering the crime scene. Indeed, the pad existed beyond the lounge when our Astro Wanderers made their escape. A fact that has been recorded for posterity on filmless film. So to reiterate, stop chasing your fantasies and see reality for what it really is, boy. Get a grip, Mr. Wright. Focus! We know the launch must have been moved, but our deductions and actual facts of the case are in direct contradiction. Well, maybe the two astronauts never really did board the rocket. Footage could be fake, body doubles or something. Second thought. It's too far-fetched even for me. Never actually boarded the rocket? Wait a minute. Maybe. Just maybe. Huh? Prosecutor Blackwell! What if I told you that the two astronauts never set foot inside the launch pad area, but instead went into another place? And what if, when the director moved launch pad 1 back to its, was not from its launch site, but from another place? What would you say then? Cut the existential bull, or I'll cut you. Mr. Wright, you will explain yourself at once. I know I'm right. It was all the other way around from the beginning. Very well, let me explain. Director Cosmos' reason for moving Launchpad 1 is because he wanted to switch it with some other place. I'm sorry, but did you say switch it? What would he possibly have switched the Launchpad with? Oh, you'll be surprised. All it takes is a little thinking outside the box, and the answer becomes clear as day. This is what was switched with Launchpad 1.
Take that!
Launchpad 1 was switched with the Space Museum. In the past, Space Museum used to be Launchpad 2. It has all the same features as Launchpad 1, and can even be moved to the launch site, meaning the Space Museum and Launchpad 1 can be switched with each other. You can't mean... The rocket the astronauts boarded was not the one in Launchpad 1. It was the one in the Space Museum.
What? Balderdash!
And yet, it's the only explanation that accounts for every riddle and inconsistency. This is how the Space Center was just before the incident. I see Launchpad 1 and the Space Museum have already switched places. That's right. And with the two switched like this, the astronauts entered the Space Museum from boarding lounge 1. This allowed the true killer to enter Launchpad 1 from boarding lounge 2 and set the bomb on the rocket. Come to think of it, the door to the Space Museum from boarding lounge 2. Exactly. Anyone could pass through the door to the Space Museum. There's no fingerprint recognition system on the door. In other words, with our two launch pads switched like that, someone other than Mr. Starbuck could have easily planted the bomb!
Ugh!
After setting the bomb on the rocket, the culprit snuck into boarding lounge 1 and waited there concealed, in order to kill Mr. Terran when the two astronauts emerged. Recall that Miss Blackwell, Mr. Starbuck, and the director all saw a suspicious figure, who, we can suppose, after killing Mr. Terran, made their escape into the Space Museum. After that, Director Cosmos switched to the two launch pads back, without realizing the killer was inside the Space Museum.
Bonk.
The killer then left the Space Museum and made a clean getaway. Right, Dylan, I see you know how to handle a sword, and handle it well. Perhaps I should call you Swordmaster Bluff. I'm a seasoned warrior who's cut down many a prophet.
Silence!
But unless you can prove your theory, it's no better than a rusty sword.
That's right! You've no proof I switched the launch pads!
Somebody needs a better anger management counselor. Maybe you could go to that gentleman's course that Payne goes to. If the launch pads really were switched, there might be a record of it somewhere. At this point, Launchpad 1 and the Space Museum were switched with each other. So the corridor beyond the door of that one belongs to the Space Museum. Let's see, this is an image of the corridor. Do you see anything different when we compare it to the security footage? A number on the door. Well, what do you know? Looks like we have proof after all. And if it's just another bluff. Oh, don't worry. It's all right here. Right in this footage. Proof that beyond that door is the corridor to the Space Museum. Very well then, answer this for me if you would. What is in this footage that proves the corridor belongs to the Space Museum?
Take that!
There's a 1 on the floor in Launchpad 1. But take a look at the floor in the corridor in the security footage. Do you see the number where the astronauts are? It doesn't look like a 1, does it? That's because what you see is actually part of a 2! What? Why is it a 2 and not a 1? That's because the corridor you see is the one to the Space Museum! Man, he's getting good. So that means the corridor in this footage was not filled with smoke? That's right, because the explosion didn't occur in the Space Museum. The explosion occurred in Launchpad 1 on the opposite side. And now that we know the 2 astronauts escaped from the Space Museum, the mystery from the previous trial of how they got down the ladder is cleared up. Mr. Terran, carrying Mr. Starbuck, simply took the elevator from the upper level down to the middle level. It's incredible! The 2 launch pads were actually switched! And to think someone would have noticed an event of this magnitude. Everyone was down in the basement shelter when the launch pads were swapped back. There was no way anyone could have known what was happening on the surface. Bye-bye. Uh-oh. Bye-bye. No more lies, Director Cosmos. It's high time you told us the truth. Uh-oh.
My arm, my glory, everything is slipping away! Galactic engine, ignition! It's gone haywire! It won't stop! My stars, my glory! Not this way! No! Bailiff, on your seat and after that witness.
What the fuck? It's not quite as good as Professor Means, but still pretty nuts.
I see we've managed to retrieve you before you came to any bodily harm.
Director Cosmos, do you admit you switched the launch pads?
I admit it's true. I switched Launchpad 1 for the Space Museum. It's good to hear words I can believe for a change.
Before you do, Your Honor, 2 things. We don't know if Mr. Terran had prior knowledge of the switch. As for Mr. Starbuck, he was aware of his own surroundings thanks to his medication. Either way, Mr. Terran would have realized the instant he stepped into the Space Museum that it had been switched with Launchpad 1. So my first question is, if the Space Museum was perfectly fine, why did Mr. Terran feel the need to put on such a dramatic display? And as for my second question, I'd like Director Cosmos to tell us why he switched the 2 launch pads to begin with.
Please, I can't. I exercise my right to remain silent, but I will say my hands were tied. I was only doing what I could to keep my men from getting caught in the blast.
The director is terrified. Must have one heck of a reason for not wanting to explain why. Probably not a good time to pry it out of him.
Excuse me, but would you mind if I picked up my stars? Without my badge of rank, nothing.
I don't see why not. Bailiff, help the director retrieve his stars.
It appears the possibility of a culprit other than the defendant has presented itself.
Mr. Starbuck, is there anything you wish to say? I don't get it.
Don't get it? What don't you get?
Director, why did you do all that? From the very beginning, you never meant for the launch to go ahead, did you? You tricked us! Mr. Starbuck.
Starbuck, my boy, I'm sorry. I can't tell you the reason why, but I had to do it to protect the Space Center.
Director! But I'll never get the chance to go into space.
Yes, of course. I won't rest until it happens. And we'll get you into space again, my boy.
And the dream is still alive.
Silence!
Oh, crap. You're not going into space, Starbuck, but prison. I won't have it any other way. Why are you so hung up on him? Except the fact the launch pads really were switched. And if there really were a third person on the scene, I suppose they could have escaped. But I've yet to see proof of this third person's escape from the Space Museum. And that's a good point. He's right. I don't have any proof. Starbuck, you will spill everything you know.
What? Me?
Where did you get those bombs? Tell me now! If you don't, my blade shall feast on your blood.
If I'm going to die, I want to die in space!
I have to do something. Solomon Starbuck, prepare yourself. You know violence isn't the answer. That annoyingly cheerful laugh. You'd be none other than... Champion of Righteousness, Bobby Fulbright here. In justice we trust. Sorry to keep you waiting, Mr. Lawyer. Hope I'm not too late. I don't believe we had an appointment. I tried to hurry, but I ended up helping a little old lady across the street. And then I had to break up a cat fight. I tell you, justice sure is a full-time job. Was it a fight between cats or... Why are you here again? Because the defendant isn't the culprit, and I came to make sure of that. Justice is served. I don't have any idea what you're talking about. Fulbright. I always thought you were a bit touched in the head. But have you finally succumbed? Nope. But it looks like you've succumbed to this phantom of yours. Open your eyes and let the evidence of justice uncloud your judgment. What evidence? Come to think of it, he did say something about finding us some evidence. I didn't think he was serious, though. So what is it, Detective? Is it something that will prove Mr. Starbuck innocent? It is indeed. Have a look at this. What's this, a lighter? That's right. A lighter thought to have been used by the culprit, no less. Space Museum's cleaning robot picked it up. It has the victim Clay Terran's blood, along with the killer's fingerprints on it. Wait, what? Order! Order! Detective Fulbright, can I assume those fingerprints don't belong to the defendant? You bet! Mr. Starbuck is totally innocent. This is it. This is just what I needed. Your Honor, this is decisive evidence that supports the defense's earlier claim. Explain yourself, Mr. Wright. With pleasure. Recall where the lighter was found. Based on that, we can extrapolate that after the killer murdered Terran, they escaped with lighter in hand into the Space Museum. where they dropped it. The switching of the two launch pads occurred. Whoop. And then finally, the killer left for the boarding lounge 2 and made their escape. Meanwhile, Mr. Starbuck was found in the boarding lounge 1 after the murder, a fact that Director Cosmos has testified to. Therefore, Mr. Starbuck couldn't possibly have been the one to drop the lighter.
Silence!
But the defendant had free reign of his own until Director Cosmos appeared. Could he not have dropped the lighter in the Space Museum during that spell?
Objection!
You'd like that to be true, wouldn't you? But Director Cosmos testified right after he saw the mysterious figure with a lighter. He went into the lounge and found an unconscious Mr. Starbuck. In other words, he wouldn't have had time to double back to the museum. No, Prosecutor Blackwell, this lighter could have only been dropped by the real killer. Most importantly, Mr. Starbuck's fingerprints are nowhere to be found on it. I think you understand what this means, don't you? This piece of evidence it unequivocally proves that Mr. Starbuck wasn't the culprit. This does indeed appear to be decisive evidence that proves the defense's claims. As for the remote switch that was found in his pocket, we can assume it was planted by the killer on the unconscious Mr. Starbuck. There must be some mistake. Frankly, Prosecutor Blackwell, I've been worried about you. You've been chasing this phantom for 7 whole years. I understand your urgency because tomorrow... Fulbright, you promised never to speak of that. Huh? Tomorrow? What about tomorrow? Given the body of evidence, I think it's safe to say the defendant is innocent. In light of the fact it was impossible for him to have committed the crime... In light of the fact it was impossible for him to have committed the crime. A few unanswered questions remain, so I look forward to seeing what you two uncover. But for now, the court finds the defendant, Solomon Starbuck, not guilty! Yeah. Where did they get the confetti from, anyway? We did it, Mr. Wright! Looks like you pulled it off somehow, huh? With some help from the detective. Mr. Wright, Miss Sykes, thank you. And please thank Apollo for me, too. You all are the best. Oh, I wish I could tell Apollo about Mr. Starbuck's verdict right now. Me too, but that's gonna have to wait. Now that a verdict has been reached, I'd like to bring today's trial to a close. Court is adjourned.
Objection!
It's too late to object, isn't it? It simply isn't possible. Something's wrong. Prosecutor Blackwell, are you dissatisfied with the verdict? Fulbright, what were the results of that fingerprint analysis on the lighter? Huh? The results? I was in a hurry, you see, and there was a cat fight, and, well, kind of got carried away when I heard that the prints weren't Mr. Starbuck's, so you have yet to read it. Prosecutor Blackwell, can you read out who the prints belong to? Upon thorough analysis, the fingerprints were found to belong to Athena Sykes. So says the report. What? What? Me? Order, I say! Miss Sykes, tell me you have an explanation for this. We just finished proving that the lighter could only belong to the killer. So finding your prints can only lead us to one great conclusion. I I don't know how they got there, but I know I'm not the culprit. This can't be happening. Built up our argument piece by piece. And I don't think any of our reasoning was faulty. How did it relate to this? Ugh. What have I done? Please forgive me, I'm sorry. Order! Order! Detective Fulbright, stop your crying! What's happening? It's like the world's gone mad. Order! Order! I will have order! Confusion is spiraling into utter chaos. After all we'd fought for, the truth had turned cruelly on us to accuse Athena of the crimes. Somewhere, somehow, everything had gone terribly wrong. We'd stumbled over the edge of reason and into the jaws of twisted darkness. And that's why we're not done yet. Oh boy. So we'll start case 5-5 next time.